Outbound is building trust from a further back starting line. Inbound, I'm building trust from someone who's done a little bit of research, maybe converted through an ad or through content or SEO or wherever you. So your starting line for that deal is much further along. A CRO at a 500 sales rep company is not going to be my first line of defense when it comes to selling, but a CRO at an 8-person company is. The messaging that I'm going to communicate to a CRO of an 8-person company is quite different than a CRO of a 500-person company if and when I ever get in front of them, if I need to get in front of them. If I have a lot of not me's and referrals, I know my title and targeting is wrong. If I have a lot of not interested, it's probably a messaging issue or a targeting issue. If I have very high meeting and very high activation and low not interested and not me's and referrals, then I'm onto something. I can scale that. It's all data. It points to what's working and what's not.
Scaling revenue in B2B SaaS requires more than just a great product. Without a consistent flow of high-quality prospects, growth will stall. In this episode, we're going to break down proven outbound strategies to help B2B SaaS companies generate more qualified opportunities and close deals faster. You will learn how to structure an outbound playbook, personalize outreach at scale, and choose the right channels to consistently connect with your ideal buyers. My guest today is Joey Gilkey. Joey is the CEO of TitanX, where he helps companies to increase their connect rate. They even have a claim everywhere where I found him that they will increase your connect rate with 300% or they will actually give you money back as well. Welcome to the show, Joey.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. Yeah, the claim is a bit of a shell shock for some people, but I'm like 230 and 0. I have not had to pay it yet.
It's an irresistible offer, right? We're going to cover more in today's episode as well. We're going to talk about B2B SaaS, specifically outbound. I like to start off this season with a story. Would you have an outbound story to tell our listeners to start off with?
Sure. Honestly, I could tell mine, which is really cool. So funny enough, TitanX is only about 15 months old. We've grown extremely fast in our first year and beyond that. But the funny story behind it is I took a services company and turned it into a SaaS. I was running a big services company and I was using another vendor called, at the time, Phone Ready Leads, which was a tech-enabled service company run by a guy named Ryan Reisert. And I was a customer of them. They were small. It was a little slow. It was a very expensive tech-enabled service. But there was something powerful about it. For me, it was, I need to get my hands on this before anyone else does. I acquired the company in August of 23, thinking I was super intelligent. I'm going to buy this tech-enabled service. It's going to be the moat around my fairly large service company at the time. And what I found out about 6 months in was people didn't care about what we did. They cared about the technology behind what we did or the tech-enabled service. But it still was a service. Do I want to shut down millions of dollars in my existing service business for a company that's doing virtually nothing? The answer became yes. So shut down my company, Apex revenue. We were growing fast, but the moat became more valuable than the castle the moat was protecting. And so in late May of 24, we launched TitanX with $0 in revenue. Because in the time after I acquired it, I shut down the entire company, took all the revenue off the balance sheet, and just used it to support the company. We have been outbound driven and inbound LinkedIn organic. We went from 0 to 5 million in 12 months off those two channels alone. Outbound has been my bread and butter for my whole career, enterprise, mid-market outbound specifically. And we took a company that was not a SaaS. It was a service. We invested heavily. All of our profit from the service company that we had before Apex, I pumped into R&D and market research and launched what was then Phone Ready Leads as TitanX for the first time with $0 in revenue, June 1st of 24. And between June 1st of 24 to June 1st of 25, we went from 0 to 5 million with a brand new SaaS.
That's quick.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And you mentioned purely outbound, but also inbound LinkedIn. Was that driven by outbound?
It's interesting. Now it's essentially a compounding effect because our LinkedIn has taken off so much that our outbound has gotten substantially easier. More people show up to calls now having known or heard of us, me, our leadership team, our company. I would say 70% of the time they've shown up, heard of us. Whereas when we first started, they had no idea who we were. But now outbound, we don't do outbound on LinkedIn. Like we don't do DMs and that kind of stuff, but we do organic content talking about outbound and maybe throwing a shade on some competition like Nooks and Orem. It's been wild. What's funny is you can do outbound. This is where attribution gets broken, right? Because you can do outbound. They can hear your name, look you up on LinkedIn, and then watch your content. They come inbound through LinkedIn, but outbound was truly the attribution for that deal. LinkedIn was just more down funnel attribution from a conversion perspective. We're tripling down on both outbound and LinkedIn. Our paid strategies start to produce substantially at this point as well. and we keep reinvesting back in growth.
Start with the basics. How would you define outbound in the modern B2B SaaS context?
Outbound is about identifying the accounts that I want to break into, knowing that I target accounts, but I sell to people. It's identifying those people within those accounts who are all strangers, finding a way to get your message in front of their pain, whatever that channel might be. Ours is obviously preferably the phone. Through there, it's convincing a complete stranger that you understand their problem and that you have a potential salve for that problem that leads them to a place where they're willing to evaluate whether or not your claims are true that you can solve that problem. That's all outbound is. Outbound is building trust from a further back starting line. Inbound, I'm building trust from someone who's done a little bit of research, maybe converted through an ad or through content or SEO or wherever you. So your starting line for that deal is much further along. Outbound is the same exact process, except for the starting line's further back. I'm starting with zero trust. That's it. Literally it. It's the same thing, just a little harder.
But I think that's one of the common challenges, right? Where SaaS companies start doing outbound or inbound and they don't have the trust. Are there any other common challenges SaaS companies face when trying to scale their revenue?
You need more than just product market fit, but you need product market fit. A lot of companies try to scale dysfunction. They're injecting technology and AI into their outbound go-to-market motion. Unfortunately, all those things do is they just scale the dysfunction that currently exists. I am a huge enemy of scale if you aren't doing the fundamentals correct. The fundamentals, there's only 4 for outbound specifically. It's list, message, rep, follow-up. That's it. Those 4 things. List is who do I target at the accounts. Message is what do I say to those specific personas. Rep is who's delivering that message to that specific list. Follow-up is once I had that conversation or I had those interactions, what do I then do based on that intel I've gained from them? And so if you can't nail those fundamentals, there's no reason to scale. The biggest issue I see with scaling is they try to scale it when they don't have those 4 pillars in place.
Yeah, it all makes sense, right? If you're not targeting the right companies with the message. And what did you say regarding rep?
The rep it's the qualitative and quantitative aspect of delivering that message to that right person or persons at the right accounts. And so you can have great targeting and a great message, but if you have a bad rep, you're never going to get as far as if you have a rep who knows how to deliver that message, who to deliver that message to, can contextualize it to whomever you're talking to, and it's at the right accounts that you actually want to work with. I see far too often now, like data providers, ZoomInfo, Seamless, Apollo, even 6sense, Demandbase, all these tools that have data provision, right? They're a data provider. They have made acquiring data a commodity. The challenge with that is people are going into these tools and they're far too trusting that the criteria and the parameters they put into the demographic, psychographic, firmographic, etc., to find accounts and find people that they're trusting that the system is queried correctly, that it's going to surface the right people based on that criteria. And it is never the case. They're always going to give you titles that are irrelevant. They're always going to give you companies that are not a good fit. And yet we're too trusting. And so we just take that list and we throw it into our go-to-market process. And when we do that, we wonder why email reply rates are down, connect rates are down, LinkedIn DMs are down. And if that's the case, the few at-bats you do get, if half of them are irrelevant to you, they can't buy from you, they're not an account you want to work with, they're not the right contact, you've substantially limited your go-to-market approach. That's why the list is the strategy at the end of the day. If you don't have the list right, then everything behind it does not matter.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're doing somewhat outbound, but we're running paid ads ourselves, for example, right now, and we're really focusing on like migrating clients over from competitors to us. Like we ran our own list as well. I mainly went over them to figure out like, are they actually a good fit or not?
Yeah.
And I think I did like maybe even 60%, which was in the list because I went over it manually. Like not really able to scale that much, but it does prove what you're saying. Like you can just run all these lists, but they might not be the best quality you're looking for.
That's right. I think it's a shame there's different variations of every title. And so unfortunately, ZoomInfo and otherwise are not good enough to normalize titles and realize that this title is the same as this title, or this title is not the same as this title, but they sound very similar. You find this interesting point where you have a commodity like data and it's very readily accessible. It just costs you a couple credits to pull them off of the platform, and you're just too trusting in the process. And when you throw it in there, no wonder it's not working. And most companies do not have outbound that works, period.
Yeah, so we cover the fundamentals, right? List, message, rep, follow-up. If we drill down on like all components an outbound strategy should have to make it successful, as you mentioned, like most of them don't work, what should an outbound strategy have?
Yeah, it will be built around those 4 pillars. So if you think about the first pillar, It's accounts first, then people. I can have amazing titles if I sell to VPs of sales. Well, a VP of sales at a company with 3 reps is very different than a company with 3,000 reps. And so those titles probably don't handle the same things, and those accounts are not the same fit for us. It starts with the accounts. You have to get very, very dialed in on your ICP. And so that means not just who can we sell to, but how do we sell to each account we can sell to. We have different bands of customers, right? We have customers that have 3 to 10 reps. We have customers that have 10 to 50 reps. We have customers that have 50 to 500 reps. Those are different bands that require different decisions. It also requires different decision making, right? Because a CRO at a 500 sales rep company is not going to be my first line of defense when it comes to selling, but a CRO at an 8-person company is. The messaging that I'm going to communicate to a CRO of an 8-person company is quite different than a CRO of a 500-person company if and when I ever get in front of them, if I need to get in front of them. And so it starts with the accounts, then it goes to the people. Because once I understand the accounts and the bands in which these accounts live, different ICPs for us, then I can start looking at the bands of people. And if you have a large enough annual contract value or lifetime value of a customer, then you're probably taking more of a named account approach, right? You have larger companies, bigger deals. And so that means that you can have what we call above the line and below the line approach. There's contacts above the line, right? It's my directors, VPs, C-suite. I've got below the line, managers, individual contributors, RevOps, et cetera. And so we have to understand that every single one of those people have a different pain point and a different goal than the other person in the account. And so what I see oftentimes is people will pull down a list for an account. Let's just say Dell is the account that I want to break into. And I pull down 50 different titles. I might have 20 different variations of scripts that I need to have to break into that account. Because RevOps cares about what? Efficiency. They don't care about head count. They care about integrations, efficiency, rep productivity. CROs care a lot about mitigating headcount risks. They're managing a P&L. They're looking at LTV to CAC ratio. They're looking at profitability, looking at rep capacity. VPs of sales have a much different mandate. Start with the accounts, then move to the personas, who are all the personas in the account that can either be a conversion point for me, can be an influence point for me, or can be an intel point for me. They can just give me information that I can feed to the top. And so that pillar list starts with accounts, moves to people, understanding that all people are different, which leads to the next pillar, which is messaging. What is that messaging that is going to resonate with those people in those accounts, depending on who they are, what jobs and functions that they own? Far too often, we have a very blanket default script that we use for an entire account. But again, RevOps is different than Chief Revenue Officers, different than VPs of Sales, and so on. And so you have to have different messaging that resonates with them. The third is the rep. What are the inputs and the qualitative aspect? The inputs are, what's our rep capacity based on funnel math? How many dials they need to make to get X amount of connects, which yields X amount of meetings, which yields X amount of opportunities and close won deals. And I need to look at each one of those as a lever that I can pull. Okay, well, our connect rate's low. We should invest in TitanX. Our meeting rate is low. We should either invest in better lists, meaning if we target better people, we'll have better conversions, or messaging, right? Or it's simply tonation and things that you have to train the rep on. How do they speak? What's their business acumen? Do they understand the pain points of the business at a core level? Now, once you move from that, it's follow-up. There's a specific system we follow. Buckets framework is based on how that interaction or conversation went. You bucket them into specific buckets. Those specific buckets have very specific next action follow-up, right? We can go layers deeper on what those buckets are, but that's the core of Outbound. Sell to the right people, say the right thing, deliver it correctly, and follow up.
This podcast episode is brought to you by SaaS Talk, my personal favorite SaaS event and community. The Europe event is taking place on the 14th and 15th of October in Dublin, and it's going to be 2 full days of investor matchmaking, talks from other founders, and meetings, which will be a huge focus this year as they're planning to have over 15,000 pre-scheduled meetings before the event. As a listener, you're getting an exclusive 30% discount through the link in the show notes. If your company is already doing above 1 million ARR, you might even qualify for a completely free ticket while they last, plus up to 400 euros reimbursement towards your travel expenses. Discounted and free tickets are limited, so feel free to pause now, hit the link, buy your ticket or get your free ticket, and then I will see you in Dublin, as Redditors will have a booth there as well. So make sure you get your ticket and then come back to this episode. Let's dive into the buckets. People say no budget, not the right timing, all the common things. Are those buckets, or do you treat them completely different?
Yeah, there's 6 buckets. Main 6 are meeting scheduled, right? Very simple. I talked to John Smith. John Smith, here's the pitch. I solve a problem. He's willing to take a meeting. That's what everyone's aiming for. Outbound's broken is they only focus on that bucket. Bucket 2 is activation, an activated lead. means I didn't get John Smith on the counter, but we had a meaningful conversation that yielded one of the 3 I's, as I call it, right? Intent, being I'm with this incumbent solution. We're not happy. We're going to be looking in Q4. That is an active problem. We are going to solve that in Q4. Intrigue, which is, I hadn't thought about that before. That's interesting. Tell me more. Or interest, like, yeah, it sounds interesting. Can you send me something? Can you follow up with me next week and call me again? Right? If they had those 3 I's, they're activated. They're not on the calendar, but they're activated. The next is not now, which is timing. You could argue timing is the 5th pillar of the 4 because you can't control it. Timing is relevant, just not now. It's not something that's a priority right this second. The next 2 are very similar with one key nuance, which is not me and referral. So not me is I called John Smith and John Smith says, yeah, I don't own that function. That's not something that's a priority for me. It's not my department, so on. But I don't know who it is. Referral is the same definition, except for they tell me, yeah, that's not my function, but that's Sally over in RevOps. Okay, great. So I got a referral out of that. And the last one is not interested. Not interested could be for a number of reasons. One is they will never buy. A third of your market will never buy no matter what happens. It might be a not interested because your messaging sucked. Your sales rep delivered it poorly. Or it's timing. We just didn't know it was timing. There's a lot of factors that lead to not interested. And when you put them in those buckets, there's a specific follow-up. If I put them in a meeting bucket, it's passed to the account executive. The account executive needs to follow up, do meeting prep, needs to make sure they're going to show up to the meeting confirmation, etc. If they're activated, that goes to the account executive. This is part of the strategy. Most people will leave someone that would be considered activated with the SDR. At that point, there's enough intel that if I feed that to the AE and they follow up, they're more likely to get a conversion and turn that into a meeting. Win. Not me, referred, new person. Not interested, why? Messaging, rep, listen to the call, analyze, and so on. If you do those buckets, you will get clear on what's wrong in your funnel. If I have a lot of not me's and referrals, I know my title and targeting is wrong. If I have a lot of not interested, it's probably a messaging issue or a targeting issue. If I have very high meeting and very high activation and low not interested and not me's and referrals, then I'm onto something. I can scale that. It's all data. It points to what's working and what's not.
And would you then, because you mentioned you would put them to the AE, or would you tag them in the CRM system that you could also run targeted ads on Not Now bucket, for example?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, that's kind of like level 3 of this whole thing, but it's once you get them, if you have your go-to-market motion dialed in, you know it's good targeting, you're getting good meeting activation, Not Now rates, then absolutely. The moment they hit, the pipeline or a certain life cycle stage in the CRM, they should absolutely go to targeted ads, right? We use LinkedIn as our retargeting. And so we target the entire account, we'll swarm the account. And so if I using Dell again, if I get Dell converted, I'm going to go after all of these titles specifically in LinkedIn. I'll do a profile match, and I'm going to go after only Dell for that particular campaign.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're not doing outbound on LinkedIn. You only do outbound via phone, if I understood correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you decide or identify that phone is the most promising outbound channel for you, and why, for example, didn't you do anything on LinkedIn?
And we are doing some LinkedIn, but there's no system behind it. It's more case by case. We believe the phone is the most impactful tip of the spear channel for outbound specifically, is because we believe that the phone is just an advertising channel. That's all it is. It's conversational advertising. The only advertising channel where I can pick the account I want to break into, pick the person I want to talk to, and if I can get them, I can deliver a one-to-one ad directly to them with my voice and get bi-directional feedback from them on how that ad hit them. We believe the phone is most impactful because not only do you get great conversions, but you also get valuable insights into your marketing, content, your SEO strategy, ads, even cold email. If you roll out cold email, you start gaining a lot of hot points or triggers that you start to hear. Right. So something that we're doing is every time we have a cold call, it's recorded. We use Gong as our recording. We use FrontSpin as our dialer. Every time that a call goes through, it goes into Clay, and then Clay does its thing to extract the transcript of that call and starts to pull out different things that are being said. Then it categorizes that, and then it starts to help us develop different copy, different messaging, different content, different ad ideas. The biggest reason I hired my head of marketing is not because he's a great marketer, but it's because he believes the phone is the tip of the sphere for the best marketing.
Interesting. Just because as you mentioned, you can target exactly who you want to talk to, and then you can get the insights you're looking for. But you want to use it differently, right? How do you see phone outbound being scalable enough?
The benefit of our technology is you get 25% connectors. I talk to a prospect every 4 dials. I pick up the phone. Most people are talking to someone every 25 dials. They pick up the phone. And so for us, we have an advantage, or anyone who uses TitanX, because I get to have conversations at scale. I mean, it's not uncommon that a rep can have 15 conversations or connects within an hour. And so that's 15 new data points that we get to use. Some of those will be conversions, some of those will be activations, some of those will be not now, some of those will be not interested, and so on. But it's incredibly scalable because I'm getting every hour dripped in brand new data that feeds the machine. And depending on how they bucket in those 6 buckets we mentioned, they're going to get different types of ad sets, right? If it's a not now, then we start nurturing them with different types of content than if someone is not interested. If we get them into the funnel, into the pipe, they hit a meeting schedule, show up, they're qualified, move into active qualification, they move into stakeholder alignment stage, they move into commit stage, they're going to start getting more like testimonial, bottom of funnel type of stuff. Okay, you're not alone considering this. Video, testimonial, etc. It's going to start swarming the account so that it bolsters their decision and gives them confidence that this decision, they're not alone in this. And that when people have taken that plunge to make this decision, the video testimonial supports the impact they can have, right? And so everything else can go more into a nurture where it's like, hey, there's content, they can download stuff, there's webinars, there's things of that nature. They can just keep educating themselves to the point where, okay, not now is now, and not interested is, I might be interested, right? Once they get there, we just start working them down that ad funnel, working more towards middle and bottom of funnel advertising that supports, we just closed, or we're about to close a big deal where we started with Outbound. They're about to IPO, I believe, and started with Outbound. Didn't convert, but got engaged with the account. And then based on attribution, they've clicked on 11 paid ads in the last 30 days and converted today. They converted to a meeting a couple weeks ago, and now they're down funnel about to convert. And so we can kind of see this interweaving of outbound and inbound and paid all working together.
Yeah, they were able to identify you as a solution with the outbound call, then educated themselves, and then from there you kind of nurtured them all the way down. And
that's right.
You don't really call it out anymore, but would you still call in between, follow up with them on the phone if you see all the intentions happening on the site and with the ads?
That's right. Yep. And so there's enough notifications of intent going on. If they are starting to pop on some of our paid stuff, that gets fed to the AEs to follow up on. And then we're also watching, we're not just running ads for when they're pre-meeting, right? We're going to keep running ads through the process. And so we use tracking on our deal rooms. And our deal rooms are syncing up with Gong and Salesforce, and so all this data is talking, and it's showing, okay, they're clicking on ads, they're accessing the deal room. All this stuff is happening, and it's building a case around why this is a hot deal for us. It takes a while to get there, but once you get there, it's obvious what's working and what's not.
Yeah, we can treat this almost as a best practice. My next question is, what are the common pitfalls companies fall into when they want to have something like this or outbound working for them?
It's putting too much value on meetings. Like, I'm not going to sell a deal if I don't have a meeting. So I'm not saying meetings aren't important. They're absolutely important. They're crucial, and they're a precursor to getting a deal done. But the problem is when, a lot of people have based their entire model off of the sales development playbook or predictable revenue, which was written 15 years ago, where they fractionalized the SDR and the AE. They used to be just outside sales and inside sales, and we moved to this SDR, BDR, and AE pod structure. It's become so inefficient because of a lot of the headwinds in the market that it's one SDR handles one AE. And so the problem with that, and I've seen it even worse, where it's like one AE has 2 or 3 SDRs because it's that inefficient. We're inverted, right? One SDR per 4 AEs because it's that efficient and profitable. And so what I see people doing too wrong is they think that meetings are the North Star metric for sales development. They're not. We need them, but how we get to them is different. If you go to the Chet Holmes buyer pyramid, Chet Holmes is a genius, RIP. 3% of your market's actively buying, 7% is open to it, 30% is not thinking about it, 30% does not think they need it right now, 30% will never buy. If that's true, and we're focused on meetings, which slices are likely to take a meeting right this second? The people who are actively buying, or maybe the people who are open to it. But you've got the 90% of the market not in that stage of buying. And so you have those not thinking about it. How do I get them to think about it? It's not a priority. How to make it a priority? So those people will turn into meetings the more that they figure out that this should be a priority. For the not nows, it's a win. And so I need to stay on top of them and have the correct follow-up approach to them. So I can turn that portion of the market into thinking about it more actively, thinking about it for now or in the near term. And then the other 30% is the never going to buy. You need to be able to figure out who those people are and why they'll never buy. Those people usually get DQ'd out pretty quick.
Yeah, so if we don't focus on the number of meetings scheduled, then we focus more on the buckets.
Focus on the buckets. Focus on completed, meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
Because what I want to do is I want to survey the market and figure out where are they at in these 5 buckets. Are they in the 6 buckets, but in the 5 categories that Chet Holmes breaks down? Are they in the buying window, open to it, not thinking about it? If I can survey the market, I can get a good idea of where every account is at any point, and then take my next step, follow up, based on where they're at. If we're always going for the meeting, you might hit somebody who's not thinking about it, try to get the meeting, you don't get it, you give up, or you try them back next week and they're still not thinking about it and they're still not going to take a meeting. And you've done nothing to move the needle on them starting to think about it. And so the focus should be that you should treat this like advertising. Some of it's brand awareness, some of it's to educate, some to convert. And we have to start looking at it like ad channels, as opposed to turning sales development into a conversion-only channel.
And if we talk about phone outbound, it's often affected by seasonality. Right now we're in summer, people are taking off, at least in Europe, like people tend to take off 3 or 4 weeks off. Like, how do you maintain the momentum, or do you go with the fact that it's going to be slower and pick up things later?
So there's two parts to it, right? There's deliverability and there's receptivity. Deliverability is, can I deliver a call and have a conversation? That is not seasonal. I can have a conversation at any point for the most part. Receptivity is how receptive is the prospect to that call. Now, some people are just never going to be receptive no matter if they're on holiday or not. Some people are not receptive because they're on vacation. Some are receptive because they're on vacation. It depends. Can I deliver a conversation? And are they receptive? If not, that's fine. Be unmemorable. I'd call John Smith, say, hey, I'm on vacation. Cool. Call you back, hang up. I'm not trying to get much out of him. I want to call him back in a week or two whenever he's back from vacation, and I can say, hey, John, this is Joey. We spoke last week. Sounds like it was the worst possible time to call you. You were on vacation with your family. Hope that was amazing. Here's why I was calling. Then he can go into, oh, we did talk. I don't remember him, but we must have talked because he mentioned my vacation. The objective is, I think we're too pushy. We're quota driven. Oftentimes, most companies are. And quotas are based off of meetings. Reps push meetings over and over and over because it's what they get comped on. If you push meetings on people who are not receptive, it's not going to end well. Whereas I could have gotten that deal 2 weeks later had I just played my cards better. And so I think that's where, from a seasonality perspective, it doesn't matter. You have to be very cognizant of their receptivity to that call.
Yeah. And I think this is a tactic SaaS founders can use, right? Not to focus on the actual meeting, but have meaningful conversations. One question I wanted to ask, like, what is an unexpected yet high impact outbound tactic? It's almost this, right? Having the meaningful conversations and just record everything from there, put them into buckets.
In advertising, we're not trying to go bottom of funnel conversion every ad. I would hope not, at least, right? Some of it's for awareness, some for consideration, some for decision. And so we've got top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel for a reason, but we try to go straight to the bottom of the funnel as fast as possible. And unfortunately, buyers are resistant to that. And so I think that we have to start thinking that way. We have to start seeing it as advertising. A stat that most people don't know is, if I mentioned the buckets, there's meetings, activated, not now, etc. If you follow up with activateds the right way, if an account executive, what I'd call a professional seller, follows up with activateds, you're going to turn 30 to 50% of those into meetings. Your SDR was going to try to get them into a meeting. They wouldn't. But instead, if you treat it like the way I'm talking about treating it, you'll be able to identify those people as activated leads. When AE follows up, you'll get 30% to 50% of them into a meeting in relatively short order. And so I think that you're actually, by focusing on meetings, you will get less meetings than if you don't focus on meetings and focus on the right strategy.
Yeah. In the end, you're going to push for something people don't want if it happens naturally.
It's like dating. It's like, if I'm forcing marriage down everyone's throat, I'm not going to have as much luck as if I force conversations to happen and see what I get from those conversations. And then I follow up on the best conversations. And then guess what? Now I'm married because I found the right person. You know,
you find love when you're not looking.
Exactly.
With SaaS as well.
Exactly.
If listeners should only remember one thing from this episode, what should it be when it comes to outbound scaling?
I'm going to cheat and give you two, because they can't be separated. One is the list of strategy. It's a very manual process. It should not be automated. AI should not do it. You need to have a manual process to make sure it's the correct list. You put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. If I go to trashy bars to find a wife, I'm probably going to find trashy candidates to get married to. I want to make sure that's a very practical list building approach. Is one, go account by account, make sure it's a good fit. Once you have built a list, you can build a list at scale, but don't send it into your go-to-market motion just yet. A very easy hack is bring that list into a spreadsheet, Google Sheets or Excel, go to the job title, column that is job title, sort it A to Z. It's going to batch your titles in alphabetical order for one, but it's going to batch all the very similar titles together, CEO, or CMO, and so on. Then you scan that and make sure, like, oh, do I want to talk to the assistant to the CEO? No, but they got pulled in because that's what ZoomInfo and these other tools do. They're trying their best, but it's not successful. So you remove it from the list, garbage out. That's number one. Number two is, what we've been talking about. Start treating the phone like an advertising channel that the sole purpose of is not to simply just convert meetings. If you do those two things, you're going to be head above everyone else in outbound. People just don't do that. They're too lazy.
One question, a bit off topic. You probably noticed the Apple update with iOS. Is it
Yep.
going to hurt? Do you think it's going to hurt outbound phone calling?
I think it's going to fundamentally change things. I think it's going to hurt certain platforms. So if you are currently parallel dialing on Nooks or Orem, it's going to wreck parallel dialing entirely. Thank goodness. But it's going to. A lot of reasons behind that. It's very technical and nerdy. I won't get into it unless you really want me to. So that's one. But I would say the second is I think it can actually help the right people. And so the fundamental belief that TitanX has is that there is a reachable market and there's an unreachable market. We define those as the people who have human behavior to pick up a cold call versus the people who do not have that human behavior. It's like, Jordan, if I asked you, do you pick up cold calls? What's your answer?
I have to say yes, because I often get calls from people I don't know. So I have to pick them up, but I'm not really...
Right.
Never got.
So you have the human behavior to potentially or even likely pick up the phone.
Yeah.
But I guarantee, like my wife, right? She's a good example. Never. There could be an emergency and the police department could be calling her on a number she doesn't recognize. She will never answer that phone. And she won't check her voicemail either. But that's her. And so that's her human behavior. And I'm not going to change that because I called her 5 times over 2 weeks. I'm just not. It's just who she is. So because we believe that, we believe there's people who are high intent for the phone. They have a high intent to answer, or at least a moderate intent, and there's a low intent, which is I'm not likely to or I will never pick up a cold call no matter what changes. And so if that is true, right, then I want to ensure that I'm calling those who are high intent. Now, the reason I bring that up is because with iOS, it's creating a new channel for us to potentially get a hold of people. If I called my wife and she has iOS turned on, right, where it does screen it, we have a new channel, which is now going to be a push notification on the phone where I can deliver a message to them of some sort. Are they still unlikely? Yes, but I might turn people who would not have answered a cold call cold into somebody who will actually answer if it is relevant or if it's well crafted. So there's going to be a new strategy for how you actually deliver and talk to AI screening to get that push notification as optimized as possible to encourage people to actually patch through and say, yes, I'll talk to that person. People who are high intent will stay high intent. People who are low intent will stay low intent. However, we now have a greater shot of actually getting them than we did before, because now we are delivering a written message, which is their preference, than picking up a cold call and figuring out this is relevant.
Yeah. In the end, it all comes back to what you said before. Start with the right accounts, the right people, the right message, so then you can actually deliver them something even though they don't pick up the phone.
Yes. And parallel dialing is not going to be able to functionally work with iOS, because I think the adoption rate is going to be very high. Nooks put out an article saying the adoption rate is going to be really low. That's completely fraudulent. It's not true. They're looking at Google, and saying Google's had iOS screening, and we found through 5 million data points that only 4% have it turned on. There's only 5% of the entire market that has Google. So that means 80% adoption. It's going to get adopted, and you don't realize that. But the challenge is you call 4 or 5 people at a time, and 1 or 2 of them have iOS screening. Are you going to hang up on everybody else to talk to AI? If yes, you might have missed an app with someone who didn't have it turned on. You could talk to them. What are you going to do? Maybe they do AI and AI talks to AI. Well, that's illegal, at least in the US. TCPA guidelines, there's Operation Roundup just came out this week. 7 telecom companies are given warning letters of the TCPA infraction that the FCC put out. There's a very expensive mistake for people to make. I think it positions people who are willing to go slow and more strategic very well. I think it's going to destroy the volume spray and pray model, which I'm excited about.
Same for me. It saves me a lot of phone calls.
I'm going to turn it on for sure.
Well, I already downloaded it, but I didn't turn it on. Let's look into the future a bit more. What should founders prepare for the next 2 to 3 years?
I genuinely think, and this is what I'm hearing a lot from like large PE groups in the tech space, large VCs who have a portfolio of companies that they're helping steer, guide, advise, or force, right, their portfolio companies to do. And I'm seeing a lot of mistrust in the sales development, business development arm, CRs and BDRs. And so I think in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see a massive shift towards account executives having to self-source more of their own pipeline. So account executives right now have historically, based off the predictable revenue, sales development playbook model, they have gotten to the place where they just sit on their ass and they wait for SDRs to book meetings. Those days are gone. They will be gone. And so I think if you really want to stay on top of things is how do I make sales development efficient and effective as possible? And how do I get my account executive sellers doing sales development again, as opposed to waiting for SDRs to do the sales development for them? So if you're starting to prepare, it's start preparing with, as you start hiring account executives, start hiring with the trait this account executive will self-source. Not just sell, but open up opportunities as well.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it going. I do not see that most companies can pull off an SDR motion unless you take my advice, and not to like self-promote, but use something like a TitanX that enables you to get into far more conversations than you are today, because connect rate's only going to continue to drop. And so I think that if it continues to drop and you have to pay for SDR salary and account executive salary, and this SDR keeps producing less and less, the profitability on that pod structure working is not going to be in existence, would be my assumption.
Let's dive into the final two questions, which are more revenue related. If you would able to give advice to a founder who's just starting out, like they're maybe at $0 MRR, a bit further, but they're on their way to 10K MRR, what kind of advice would you give a SaaS founder here?
Product market fit all day, every day. Don't focus on anything except for the customer and what you sell to them. The practice that I have run in multiple companies now that has always worked out well for me is figure out who you want to sell to first before you build too much, right? Obviously, you got to have some MVP type of product to sell, but maybe not, right? And so my belief is I want to identify the people I want to sell to. I want to identify the pain that they have, and then I want to go talk to them with zero strings attached outside of will they be helpful to me. So I've done this on 3 companies. Every company had great product market fit after this. I try to find about 20 people in the market I'm willing to pay for their time. I'd be like, hey, John, I'll pay you whatever your hourly rate is for just 10 minutes of your time. I'll give you an hour for 10 minutes. And all I'm asking for you, John, is I have nothing to sell you. Not today. I hope I do in the future. It's why I want to talk. I think I know your market very well. I think I have a solution to this specific problem. All I want to do is get 10 minutes where I can tell you exactly what I think I'm going to bring to the market. I'm going to give you a permission to shoot it, right? You get a license to shoot. I'm going to shoot as many holes in that as possible to make me better, including what I'm going to charge for the solution, how I'm going to deliver it. Have 3 or 4 of those conversations, recreate the offer or product, go to the next 3 or 4, do it again, iterate, go to the next 3 or 4. By the time you do about 3 rounds of that, you have a really solid product that people want to buy. And ironically, the people you asked for help and said, I have nothing to sell, will inevitably tell you, half of them, hey, when you actually launch this, hit me back up. And there's your first 7, 8 customers.
Yeah, because in the end, you're fixing their pain. You kind of already have identified their pain, but they're going to shoot your product. Then they tell what's wrong with it because they have different pains. From there, you're building what they want.
Yep. And you're going to tell them, hey, in a month when I refine this, can I do a last pass with you? Like, yeah, of course. Another conversation. Any final holes they want to shoot, they can. Or you say, great, I'm close to launching this. I really appreciate that. Like, okay, when you launch, give me a shout.
Yeah.
There's your customers.
Let's assume we pass 10K MR and make a huge step. I know we're going to grow towards 10 million ARR. You can chop it up. You can do however you want. But what kind of advice would you give SaaS founders who are on that?
From 100K ARR to a million. It's all about scaling up selling, but it's founder-led. So I think founder-led content. I think founder-led selling, right? Assuming you can. Ideally, you can. If not, you should probably find a co-founder that can. I do not think that you're ready for salespeople yet unless you have a background in sales like I did. I mean, I had salespeople day one, even with $0 in revenue, but it's because I knew what I could get out of them. And so start investing in that because I'm a big believer in do, document, delegate, right? 3 Ds. Do it well until I can document it well that I can then delegate it to someone. And so focus on that. And I would also say get yourself out as much administrative work as possible as soon as possible. So the moment that you start taking home a paycheck, go ahead and write off half of it and get an executive assistant. Take it off your plate. Stay really close to your customers. Start getting feedback from them on the product. What would have them help build your roadmap. Incentivize them to give you case studies, video testimonials. When you're first starting, you lack proof. And so start getting people to start talking about your product, et cetera, et cetera. Incentivize them, pay them, discount them, whatever it takes to get those, because those are worth way more than whatever you comp them on. Once you get to 1 million, it's about scaling up the leadership team. And so it's starting to get systems and processes in place and people to run those systems and processes. So now we start looking at, okay, well, who is the talent that I can bring in? And here's one thing. I used to skimp on talent and be very cheap with talent. I've been an entrepreneur for 8 years. I've sold 2 companies. I used to skimp on talent and it hurt me. You buy cheap, you buy twice, right? I don't know if you've ever bought like a really cheap product and like it broke in a month. You had to go buy the nicer one. It's like, I should have just bought this in the first place. It was more expensive. And so what I have learned is just go find the best possible talent that you can possibly afford. Even if you can't fully afford it, find a way. Give them equity, give them other benefits. Even if you have the right system in place, take out some debt, good debt. I don't think that you need venture capital to build a company these days. I think venture capital is bad for most companies. So start building those people. Once you get to about 5 million, it's about scale. And back to the talent thing, like pay people what they're worth. I'm a huge believer at the end of the day that you should not hire people based on their potential, ever. You should hire people based on where they're at today, proven. I'm not going to pay for your future potential. I'm paying for what you can do for me day one when you walk in here. And so I'm a big fan. I mean, I don't have a single employee on my payroll that makes less than 100,000 US dollars because I believe in paying for talent, right? I'd rather pay an extra 30, 40, $100,000 and get what that should get for that money than pay someone 40, 50, $60,000 less and either replace them or be disappointed in their performance. It's about pouring gas on what's working. Get a little bit more relentless about cutting expenses and bloat because you want to have enough money and cash to start shoveling into what's working. I think you get to about 5 million, you get bloated with your tech stack. You're paying for a lot of stuff you were trialing and stuff like that. Start getting aggressive with cutting expenses. Start looking at what's not working and start cutting it. And take all that savings and dump it into what is. And just triple down on it. And you will get to 10. I mean, we went 0 to 5 in 12 months. I think we'll probably finish this year, which is about 20 months of company age, around 10 to 12 million.
That's quick.
I've done this a few times, very poorly, I might add. Learned mostly from mistakes. But yeah, man, I think you do a lot of those things, you'll be on the right track.
Nice. Let me see if I can summarize. So if we take it all the way to the beginning, Outbound is basically targeting people within accounts. It's all about trust. So you're going to combine Outbound with Inbound, and you need to start building trust. In the end, it's about convincing people you understand their problem. The fundamentals of Outbound: list, message, rep, and follow-up. If we're going to talk about list, it's account first people. Make it a manual process. If you're going to put garbage in, garbage is going to come out. Then talk about message. How do you sell to different personas? They have different pain points. When we look at the rep, what are the conversion rates per stage and how are they performing? With the follow-up, put follow-ups into different buckets. You talk about meeting scheduled, activations, meaningful conversations, the not now, the timing one, the not me, and then the referral, get them to give the right name, and then the not interested bucket. When we talk about phone outbound, it really allows you to advertise towards a person, gives you valuable insight, record calls, put insights and categorize them, supports the inbound nurture machine as you mentioned, and connect data sources, call recording, CRM, data providers, etc. Meetings are important, but focus on actual having meaningful conversations and get insight from the phone calls rather than just focus on the meeting. Treat it as advertising as you mentioned. The iOS update, it will allow you to actually give a crafted message, so it's not gonna kill outbound phone calling. When we talk about growing from 0 to 10K MR, focus on product market fit. Who do you want to sell to? Identify their pay people for their time to get people to shoot your product and put holes in it so you can improve your product. 1 to 10 million. When we first talk about 100K to 1 million, founder-led sales, do it, document it, and delegate it. Have people or have clients build your roadmap, build proof. And then 1 million plus, it's all about systems and processes. Pay people what they're worth. And then 5 to 10, put gas on what is working.
Amazing recap.
No AI is being used here. If people want to get in contact with you, Joey, how can they do so? What is the best way?
Check me out on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Joey Gilkey. Very active on there. You can also check out TitanX.io if the product sounds interesting for your go-to-market.
Nice, perfect. We're going to link toward TitanX.io. We're going to link to your LinkedIn profile. We're also going to add a link towards the Chat Holmes pyramid you mentioned. So we're going to add it into the recording as well. I think it's a good one for people to get to know. Anything else before we drop off?
No, I love it. This is a great episode. Take outbound very seriously. It can be your most powerful channel if you handle it appropriately.
That's the right closing. For people listening on Spotify or any other channel, leave us a review. We want to boost the algorithms, of course. On Spotify, we will add a poll. Always happy to learn what you thought of this episode. Thanks again for coming on, Joey.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching this show of the Grow Your B2B SaaS podcast. You made it till the end, so I think we can assume you like this content. If you did, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you like this content, feel free to reach out if you want to sponsor the show. If you have a specific guest in mind, if you have a specific topic you want us to cover, reach out to me on LinkedIn. More than happy to take a look at it. If you want to know more about Readiness, feel free to reach out as well. But for now, have a great day and good luck growing your B2B SaaS.